ripping and running all morning. I am hungry as hell, honestly. All right, how's it going?
It's going.
Good?
Yes.
Good? All right. Well, we're doing something a little different. Normally I do podcasts during the weekend. And first, based on some changes, that ain't gonna work as well as it has previously. So we're now sitting down during the week and having our conversation. So what's going on, everybody? I'm Coach Lyndon, and this is...
I'm Coach Kayla.
And we're both trainers over at Getting It Daily. But what we wanted to talk about was we're gonna bring up two topics that just came up. We're calling this Coach's Corner, okay? We're calling this Coach's Corner because it's things that we talk about in-house that we think may benefit clients and people who maybe don't have a coach and are looking for a coach or need more information when it comes to training. So we figured we'd go that route, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so two things. One, you had a video that you brought up, yes?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about that first.
In this video, the individual, he basically is squatting for powerlifting, and it's a pretty maximized weight. It's way heavier than a lot of individuals will typically go to. But the question of the matter is his depth where it should be, and does it
hilarious conversation.
and does it necessarily count if you can't get the proper depth to it?
Right. So what made this talk interesting was when you first brought it up, I have no context, right? All the context I have is going to be based on the things that I've been told or heard or what have you. So all my context was from you, and you were just talking about the video. And when you talked about the video, I was like, all right, I saw the video. I was like, I mean, that doesn't look like it, but whatever. More context, right? And when you gave more context, I learned that he had already done this at a competition and got the green light, right? They passed that.
Yes.
They passed his squat. So I originally thought we were having a conversation about squat depth, does it count, versus a conversation that was really about should they have given him it counting based on the video or based on him getting it at competition. And of course my response, for anyone who knows me, my response is he got it, that's what matters. Right? And what's so interesting to me when it comes to fitness in general, yes, we have our different platitudes and things that we want to happen or things we want to see people do well. But it runs into the bigger question. Why are people questioning him making it or not? Right?
Yes. And that was a big thing after the initial meet that he had where he met this weight. So that the weight was around 900 pounds. So essentially it's a lot of weight. And that amount is a good accomplishment on its own. But then individuals are coming after saying like, well, does it count, does it not count, because he wasn't properly in that depth field.
Yeah, so you want to explain for people who don't, for people, maybe someone who's watching who doesn't understand what we're talking about. The squat itself isn't, the squatting isn't the problem. It's the depth on the squat, AKA how low the hips are when compared to where the knees are, and then being in that position and then standing up from that position, right? So powerlifters have to go down to a certain, most of the time, depth, which is then measured by a coach or measured by a judge of some sort, ref, judge, whatever. I don't know the proper terms for where they are. But let's just say it's then measured and then they're told to stand up or to move, right? They measure it as okay, then they let him go, right? So he got it in competition, right? And it did pass, right? So for whatever competition this is, he got the green light.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So that was one part of the conversation, which is why I said he got it. That's it. On the other side, it became a conversation about, let's say, what you believe, right? Or like, what's your mantra? Why are people questioning you, particularly about this? It's not just because of the squat. It's because of him owning his own space and having a culture and speaking on specific things. So they're watching the leader do something that they have been told not to do, and that's where the questions are coming from. Whether he leads them or not isn't even the issue. It has everything to do with, well, you didn't do that. Now I have questions. Fair?
Fair.
Okay, so, I didn't answer this question yet. We haven't even talked about this piece yet, right? Because a lot of people are going to think, maybe this is script. Nah, we just turned the camera on. I talked about the other part while I set up, and now I'm having this conversation, right? So let's say, for me, I actually understand from both sides. As someone who loves fitness and thinks that the game can be very rigged, right? Like, I've been a bodybuilder, and I've seen people win who were just like friends or favorites, and maybe they shouldn't have won that show. I'm going to say they didn't deserve to win some of the shows I saw people win. I will not say when, where, what I competed in. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is I saw favoritism for a person be favoritism for the win.
Absolutely.
Right? So the reason that's important to this conversation is based on where someone competes, who they know, what stock they have. There is a possibility that the game was a little rigged, right? Now, again, I don't know anything about this individual outside of the video I saw. But two parts that matter the most is, number one, he got the green light. Number two, it's a culture thing. If you don't want to be questioned on something, then you need to be willing to do the work in that space. If we all call ourselves experts when we help people with the fitness thing, you can't mess up, make a mistake, and not own the mistake. It's not about the mistake, right? It's not about it being good or bad. If someone kind of calls you out, then that's what it is, or it isn't. It's that simple. So when let's say I call, in this instance, squat depth out, that wasn't as low as your 700 attempt or your 600 attempt, and the first response is haters gonna hate, that's suspect, right? That's suspect. If we're not having conversations about, maybe I did miss it, but I got it in competition and that's what matters. If we're having conversations like, whatever, I do what I do, you just hating from the sidelines, that's where I see the miss, right?
Yes, I would agree with that. And I think that there is a big difference, like you said, between like a bodybuilding and as far as going with powerlifting, because bodybuilding, you can show up one day and it's all kind of judgmental. Whatever the judges are feeling that day is really what's going to be the outcome regardless. Powerlifting is you go in there and you either lift it or you don't.
Fair.
So with this individual, you're talking about the work ethic and everything. He puts in that work. He's there every day doing all these different things. So the work is there, the effort is there. He's not just going and saying, hey, I can do this, and it's really not up to par with what's matching what he's saying. So it's there, but it's piecing everything else together and having everybody else look at it.
Listen, ma'am, and I don't mean to cut you off, but being a man who owns a space, who runs a community, I absolutely understand why that would be a hard thing to face.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like someone to call you out on, in this instance, we're calling maybe your bullshit, right? And anyone to call you out, it's hard. Like, that's a hard thing to have to hear. And again, I do not know this individual personally, so I'm speaking from someone who built themselves up to the point to where I can lead, and then doing a thing that is exceptional and watching people critique my exceptional thing. That's kind of jacked, right? But at the same time, the thing we have to realize is we put ourselves into that position, right? We put ourselves into that position by leading, by setting things out, by talking about doing things, right? Just earlier today, I was meeting with a lady, and like, we're so similar yet so different, right? She comes from the yoga space, and we literally had a conversation about how we both, in the beginning, thought the other one was unnecessary. But by having an open mind and being a student, we both learned that it's just all about movement and doing it well, right? So, shouts out to every owner of space who has to make space for other people. And if you're in a position where people are talking about you, you're definitely doing something right.
Also, I think just even an individual who is putting themselves out there in general, obviously, like you said, if you're owning a space, yeah, you're putting yourself out there in other ways that maybe some people might not. But
Yeah, shouts out to anybody who's
yeah.
putting themselves out there for sure.
it's so funny. We talk
Yeah.
about all the time, like the universe and conversations that we have, like coming full circle.
Yeah.
There was something earlier as well that was talked about. She was saying, how do you, it's somebody in bodybuilding and she's starting her first show. A lot of people don't understand her. A lot of people, you know, are kind
Fair.
of like, why?
Oh yeah.
So she was asking.
love these conversations.
Yeah, she was asking, well, how do you overcome the mindset of having all these people attack you for what you're doing, and
When you say
especially
a-
on social media,
When you say attack,
as in all the negative comments that can be flooded, and it could
Okay,
be on
got it.
any manner. It could
Got
be,
it.
you know, how you're posting a workout or what you're eating. Maybe how you're, you know, going to the gym all the
Fair,
time.
fair.
You know, any aspect of
fair.
that.
So it's like me. In that regard, I have a personal lesson I like to share when it comes to this. My personal lesson is, whether it's a hater or an admirer, they're watching.
Yes.
Right? And if they're watching, they're consuming your content. And if they're consuming your content, you're getting a wider reach, right? So if someone wants to hate, there could be a number of reasons why. I always defer to haters gonna hate, they gonna do what they do. And if someone wants to critique me, that means that they took time out of their day to say what they think I'm doing wrong. Fair? And again, most people acknowledge that on a subconscious level. If you acknowledge it on a subconscious level, you're probably going to do stuff like, let me see what he look like or she looks like. Let me see what they're doing. Can they critique me, right? I think that has its place. But as someone who's competing for the first time, listen, if you're competing for the first time, if you're doing this and you really want to do this, I hate to say it like this, but this is just the truth. Everything is noise outside of the task.
Yes.
If everything's noise outside of the task, then guess what? You're going to have to learn how to block out some noise, right? I mean, if your coach, the person you've trusted with your journey, isn't speaking on what they're speaking on, there's no alignment. Not for you.
Yes.
Not until you're done, right? And then when you're done, maybe you do look back and see what it is. If you trust your coach, you trust your coach. You've hired a coach. If you trust yourself, because you're doing it all, you trust yourself. Trust the voice that's telling you how this is done.
And that's
right?
exactly it. You gotta pick the right voice to listen
Yeah.
to.
Well, it's only should be two, you and your coach. Anyone outside of that, that's it. I don't care if your coach is you, somebody else, a family member, it doesn't matter. The only voices that should matter to you are those two. Too many people get caught up in the glitz and glamour of what could be an amazing moment, right? And they miss the moment, right? And I have to say, like, again, bodybuilding was fun, but it wasn't something I really wanted to do. It was just something I chose to do to show myself what I was capable of. When I did that, you know, my first show didn't go well, right? It went terrible, right? I did okay, but it went terrible. Like, I was just like, I don't like it. I want to do better. So I went to these panel of people using their opinions and thoughts and their expertise, their wisdom that they've had, because normally there are people who have either been bodybuilders or owned spaces, so they really can't critique, or ex-champions, right? They are experts. These people then tell you what they think is wrong with your body. You then have a choice. You get to either work on what they said was wrong with your body, or you get to say, I don't want to.
And I think that's it exactly there. It's a choice every day. And
Yeah.
whether it's bodybuilding or just a daily fitness journey in general, you don't have to be a bodybuilder or a power lifter to
You do
make
not.
these choices.
You do not.
Every day we have a choice. So it's a choice and a privilege to be able to wake up and say, I'm going to eat healthy today.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose this over this.
Yeah.
And, you know, and too many people look at it as an obligation in a negative manner instead of the choice and the way to say, I get to do this.
Yeah, being in a blessed space to be able to do a thing is one thing. Being able to make the choice that's towards whatever you want is technically a privilege, right? And again, we should treat it as such. You should be thankful for the ability to make that choice. On the same note, make the choice that actually fits what you want.
And that's, I think, something that would be a perfect segue even to what we were going to talk about, nutrition.
Sure.
You know, on a daily basis, like we have a lot of individuals that come to us and say, hey, nutrition stinks. I can't do this. I can't do that. You know.
I wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
I wish people, like, I've been doing this for over a decade, man, and every time someone comes in, they say, I'm gonna fix it all, and I'm just like, no, you're not. And they're just like, yes, I am tomorrow. If I've had 100 clients, I've had maybe 10 who never made a mistake when I asked them to execute. 10. I can literally count on my hands how many I've had out of the 100 clients, let's say, I've trained, right? And what's so interesting to me about that alone is the miss. It's a fucking miss. Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't miss. I'm saying to say perfection is going to happen is a lie that makes the journey damn near impossible.
Yeah, and
right?
as humans, it's hard to say that we're not going to be perfection because we want that success, we want that perfection, and we crave it. So
I
it's
hate
hard.
social media just for that reason alone. Like, social media to me is a plague of a space, right? And I'm just going to be honest with y'all and tell y'all the truth, because I feel like in my previous season, I spoke my mind, but I also held back because I didn't want people to be offended, right? And this season, I don't give a shit if you're offended about me or not. So in this season, you're gonna hear, I think social media is a plague for the average person. I think most of you don't use what it's for. I think most people are missing the point of why it's all there. Find things that motivate you. The negative stuff on there shoot you in the foot, and you need to stop watching it, right? If your feed isn't full of stuff that puts you closer to your purpose, then stop. Like, it's that simple.
And let's talk about that too. Like, it's not even just like the purpose, but the right things too. So you can have
purpose. That's purpose.
Say that you have like a million of these people, but are they the real people you should be chasing? So if you're a natural person who's doing things naturally, are you looking up to a natural individual, or are you flooding yourself with people that realistically aren't going to be where you'll be?
It's like following a workout routine for a champion bodybuilder who isn't natural. You are natural, and you don't even have the same physique.
Yes,
right? Like,
that's it.
You're just missing the point. Like, and again, it's not to say that their workout plan is bad. It's not to say that it won't give you results.
Two different
literally
journeys.
To say where you are and where they are so different that doing that may not work for you.
Yes,
right?
that's exactly
and
it.
I would say most of the time it doesn't. Will you get better on the said program? Probably. You're doing something you haven't done before. You should get better, right? But again, I always tell people, like, your natural pros aren't really popular, right? Like, they're just not. And again, it's not rude. In their scene, they're doing amazing. But overall, no, they're not popular. No one cares who they are. No one cares what they do. They work average 9-to-5 jobs, right? The guy standing on the Olympia stage, they do this for a living, but they also know what they're sacrificing to do it, right? If we're talking about nutrition and stuff of that nature, we're going back to the second point there. Like, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? That is the name of the game, right?
Exactly.
There's so many people come in this door, and the first thing that happens is they talk about how they want the change, and then as soon as you bring up what's required for the change, they go, yeah, I'm not too sure, right? Quite frankly, as a coach, I stopped bringing up nutrition to most people. I'll bring it up in check-ins. I'll bring up it's part important on the journey, but I don't hammer it home like so many coaches. And the reason I don't hammer it, most of you motherfuckers are not ready to have a conversation about nutrition because you're not even consistent in your journey. Nutrition will have no effect on you if you don't have consistency.
That's exactly key.
It's the worst thing, right? There's no reason for me to talk about nutrition with a person who isn't consistent yet. And I've had people say that, well, why don't you talk more nutrition? It's not going to help you. You're not in the space. I haven't seen you. If we said 3 days a week and I saw you one last week, I'm gonna shoot you a blank meal plan and be like, have at it, because that's all you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Right? It's consistency. If you can't show up for yourself consistently, why would you change your eating?
And that's it. You have to want it for yourself. You can't have a coach and somebody else who's telling you, okay, here's all the tools, but if you're not going to use those tools for yourself, then what is it for?
Yeah, and in this new season, I'm just like, fuck it, right? And a lot of that, like, look, I've had that rub a lot of people along the way, and I'm not sorry, right? And the reason I'm not sorry is because of this. It takes me back to being in the leadership role. You don't come here to be my friend. You come here to get what you need. And if you come here to get what you need, friendship is a byproduct of us understanding one another. If I tell you this is what works and you tell me I'm not going to do it, as a person who's trying to be consistent, do I want a friend like that? If we weren't in this space, if I wasn't coach and you weren't client, and we came together, and I'm telling you I'm trying to work on my consistency, and all you're doing is complaining about your journey, do you really think I'd like to be friends? You get what I'm saying? Do not get me wrong. I have made friends in spaces and where I've gone, but the reason why I'm such a monster to the average person when it comes to like the fitness stuff and everything else has to do with the fact that I found people I resonated with. That was it. I didn't go to like one fitness space and say, this is the only way to do it. I was like, no, let me go in here. Oh, no, they lifting heavy. Let me go over there. I start hearing the mindsets. Everybody cussing and yelling at one another, and everybody's doing everything possible to make that thing move, to get that weight from point A to point B. I'm now interested. Tell me more, because that's the mindset I have as a person, right? I want to do it. Execution is worship. Everyone's heard me say it. It's not that I worship execution myself. It's that the average person only cares once you've done it. There's no applause before you finish. Like that's literally it. There might be one or two claps, but you're not getting a roaring stadium full of fans until you're the champion, until you've completed the task. So guess what? If you think someone's going to support your damn journey, and it's not you, you've missed the point of your journey. So a lot of what I'm talking about, like, I had something I want to say. A lot of what I'm talking about has to do with the fact that most people on the nutrition path need to be serious enough to make change. Now, for those who are, I promise you, I don't miss a mark. If I see you want it, I want it too, right? I want it as bad as you do. I think that's important. It's
very important as a coach.
We will do our jobs, but I want it as bad as you do, right? So when a person, I got a client, anytime I see him, I ain't got to talk about his nutrition at all. He looked bored if the workout's too easy. I got to change. I'll be like, dang, I really should up it a little bit, right? Sure, he'll put up with being bored, but eventually, bored will turn into lack of progress. And I don't want that for him, because I see how much he wants it. He shows up every day. He makes sure he does it. Whatever I ask, he does. Bored or not, doesn't understand it or not, he tries to do the thing. Big. Then I have another client. And my other client, I can barely get to show up, right? We ain't even touching nutrition yet. We're just talking about barely able to show up. Which client do you think I'm gonna go harder for? Or which client would you go harder for?
I think that's an obvious in most cases. The individuals that show us they want it more and are willing to put that effort in, you don't have to be successful at everything that we ask you to do. The failure is part of the process. So there's going to be times that you're not good at what we ask you to do. But it's it's the effort that goes into it, and in knowing that you're doing something and trying something that we're going to want to continue on with. So, the individual that's not showing up, why would we want that if you're not wanting it?
I'm only doing it because it's my job. Like, let's say you make it hard for me to do. I'm only doing it because you're paying me. And even then, that might not last long, right? Like,
and it's not going to last long because eventually that person's not going to want it either.
Shit, I'll kick you out. I keeping it a buck. If it goes too far, I'm the type of person to remove you from space. Reason being is because one bad apple can ruin the bunch. And I don't want your bad attitude becoming everyone else's problem. Like,
mindset and being around like-minded individuals.
Yes.
That's why this community is beautiful, because it's a community full of people who may have different journeys, but they're all like-minded.
Shout outs to 5 PMs here. Very interesting time.
Oh yeah.
Right? and a lot of it is about the clients, everybody is a little unique in their own way, and that should be celebrated. But we also have a lot of similarities, and I wish we did more owning those similarities so we could help each other for real.
Yeah.
That's where I I've heard people say stuff like, we have one of the most integrated communities they've ever seen. And I'm like, Why is that a like a anomaly? Fair? I think it's an anomaly because a lot of us are too busy being nice, right? So
True.
I'm gonna give 3 tips for nutrition. You want to just segue? You give 3, I give 3.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm gonna give 1. My first one is, first of all, get some consistency.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Like, that's a very simple one. If you don't do it enough, it doesn't matter if you eat a salad one day. It matters if you can eat that same salad over time and frequently to get your change. Consistency.
Piggybacking off of that, I'm going to say do some meal prepping. It's going to help designate 1 or 2 days a week and make your meals for that week out. Plan them out, get them in some containers.
Fair.
Even if you're a busy person, you can plan around that.
Yeah.
It's the best way to make sure you have that consistency and you're able to have everything that you need when you need it.
Fair. Number 2, this is my favorite. I'm literally giving my top for what clients have done in space or what my experience teaches, has taught, hydration. So many people are dehydrated and don't even know it. I've got people who are like 3 times more active than the average person, but they're drinking water less than the average person needs. The headaches, the dizzy spells, the other stuff, it's all tied to a lot. Well, I'm not going to say all of it is tied to. I should say in a lot of cases, hydrated people have the same symptoms.
Yeah,
Fair?
that's
So
fair.
you should hydrate.
I agree fully. And everybody's hydration might differ.
Well, it's all
so
based
big.
on body weight.
Yeah.
Body weight and then fluid ounces. 1
I
pound
think-
for every fluid ounce is a great rule to follow.
Yeah.
I usually give, because again, a lot of people don't drink enough, I'll say half a gallon to a gallon. Let's say 80 ounces to 128 is what I'll normally give. And I give that on purpose. And again, if you don't do it, it's fine until it's not, which is usually how that goes.
Fair. I think tracking in some form is going to help you along your journey too. It's difficult when you first get into it. It's not easy because you actually have to remember to do it. But if you can have some form of tracking, you're going to be able to know what works, what doesn't work, and where you are on each point of your journey. So that's going to be huge as well for you and the coach.
Fair. Great. That's a great tip. Number 3 for me is actually going to have to do with the consumption of fruits and vegetables. Okay. Oof. This is scary to me. This part is scary to me. Most people do not eat enough or any at all fruits and vegetables. And it's a lot of processed foods, a lot of things that don't matter. Again, eating more fruits and vegetables will help your body start to detox itself, right? So if you're not eating enough, let's say as an example for a rule of thumb, 3 cups of fruits and veggies is more than enough. Fair? And again, if you do this, watch how your whole journey will change.
I like that. Listening to your body is so huge as well. Piggybacking off of if you're not getting enough of something, whether it's fruits and veggies, protein, whatever the case is, your body could be telling you something and you may not know it, but you're lacking in one place and you're not understanding that you're lacking that. So for example, if you're craving something like chocolate, just off the top of my head, craving something like chocolate, you could be low in an area like some vitamins, like you're maybe needing some more magnesium in your body, or just something simple that you could get, that you can get from other areas and natural food sources that you might not have known you're lacking.
Nice. Yeah, again, this is all the tips that we give to you guys are for you guys. So if we tell you something, we're not telling you because we want to be experts. We're telling you because we really understand people need help. If you need more tips or tricks, listen, GID is always willing to help. Ironically, I do a lot of giving away of things for free because I know people need help. And even more to the point, if you need help with planning and training, hit one of us up, right? Hit up the space. Ask questions because I promise you, we were all beginners at one point, right? I didn't start off as an expert in fitness. Ironically, I started my fitness journey in my late 20s. Right? So the whole thing is you don't have to be an expert to start, but you definitely have to start to be an expert.
Yeah.
Fair?
just
out.
get started.
100%.
Just get started.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. Honestly, this was on the spot. And we hope you enjoyed the series.
That was good.